The Forgotten City is a brilliant game. Released in 2021, it tasks players with solving the existential mystery plaguing a Roman city while repeating the same sequence of events, Groundhog's Day style. It's even more impressive when you consider the fact that it all started out as a Skyrim mod way back in 2015, before eventually becoming its own standalone game. I can't speak to the strength of the mod. I haven't played it yet, but I do plan to at some point. But I can't say enough about the creativity and heart that went into the Romanized version. And one of the things it does best is the way it utilizes memes, philosophy, and ancient history as lore. By that, I mean in order to solve the game's puzzles and mysteries, you don't need to consult some voluminous lore document or ad-filled wiki. You don't need to read up on some ancient war between brothers who betrayed each other, or decipher codex entries on the life and times of some obscure god. You just need a cursory understanding of our own world, of both history and current events. By tying the story of its game to the memes of pop culture and a philosophical quandary that has raged since ancient times, the developers of the Forgotten City crafted a game that requires quite a bit of intuitiveness to figure out, but still feels accessible to a wide variety of players. The Forgotten City does this right from the beginning of the game, with the first character we meet. Though she claims to be named Karen, and even references the memes, it's eventually revealed that we misheard her. Her name is actually Charon, as in the ferryman of the dead from Greek mythology. While this is likely a name familiar to those who spent even a small amount of time studying Zeus and his dysfunctional family, and though the game does provide a strong explanation, ultimately, none of that matters as much as what the association between Karen and Charon conveys to the player. We, as 21st century gamers, know the Karen memes well enough to know that someone intentionally walking around with that name, especially to the point where they call attention to it, is going to be, to some degree, an oppositional character. As soon as we link the two names, we realize that Karen is aligned with the forces keeping us in the Forgotten City, a fact that is proven to be true when we discover that Hades, her master, is the god behind the Golden Rule. In addition, it also gets to the heart of what proves to be a recurring theme in the Forgotten City: the idea that the forces at work here have been known by several names throughout history, by different cultures. Now that we know that Karen is Charon, we naturally begin to wonder what other names she might go by. Soon after, Equitia tells us of Kabash's experience with Kerti, making this abundantly clear. It's not a revolutionary idea. Games like Assassin's Creed have been touching on the topic of our shared history for 20 years now. But using a meme as a jumping point to get it across is certainly a unique approach, one that's far more inviting than simply dropping some lore. In doing so, it makes the many endgame reveals easier to digest. When we've already come to accept that Karen is Charon, who is also Kerti, it's no surprise that Pluto is Hades, who is also Osiris and Nergal. The same is true of the foundations of the Forgotten City itself. Of course it was built on Greek ruins, who built on Egyptian ruins, who in turn built on Sumerian ruins. It's the natural order of things in the world of the game. And it's all thanks to a meme that this information flows down to us so smoothly. The Forgotten City does this again when it begins to dive into more philosophical questions. Ask people how they feel about philosophy, and you'll get a wide range of responses. Probably everything from, "Oh yeah, debating is so much fun," to, "Hey man, Socrates can go to hell." So it's a bit of a risk incorporating it as a major feature in a video game. But once again, the developers made its inclusion easier to parse by making something else we're probably all familiar with, the Golden Rule, its focal point. Whether it was conveyed to us by a parent, a guardian, or a grade school teacher, I think it's safe to say that almost all of us had heard of the Golden Rule long before we stepped through Proserpina's portal. Still, even in our world, what exactly is meant by the Golden Rule is, well, kind of debatable. Treat others as you want to be treated is a phrase that may seem to have a clear meaning. But throw it to a room of contrarian teenagers, and you'll find it's anything but. And as is made clear in one of the game's endings, that's really the point. On some level, of course, we all know this, that the Golden Rule is great as a personal philosophy, a personal maxim, but not something you can build a society around. We've all been on the receiving end of a lecture about the proper treatment of our fellow man, only for that one guy to say something along the lines of, "Well, what if I want to be punched in the face? Huh? What about that, Mr. Albatross?" Or perhaps something even more terrifyingly misanthropic and nihilistic. All of this is to say that by using a pretty common concept as a launching point, the game is able to dive into a philosophical conversation that has raged since the dawn of time. What is the right way to treat one another? What defines a sin? And who among us is wise enough to make such distinctions? These are deeply complicated philosophical topics with no clear answers. The kind of thing that many choose not to think about simply because they are so nebulous. But choosing to funnel all that through the Golden Rule, something we're all familiar with, makes it far easier to join the debate. Which is good, because one of the ways to achieve the game's best ending, the canon ending, is by engaging in an intellectual boxing match with Hades himself. So by approaching philosophy through such a common entry point, the Forgotten City doesn't just help us to better understand its themes and messages, it helps us complete what essentially serves as the game's final boss encounter. I'm an absolute sucker for a good boss fight, especially a final one. I love Hideo Kojima's games because I can always count on him to have a good one, even if it's as absurd as Sam and Higgs punching each other out in Death Stranding, or Snake and Revolver Ocelot wrestling on top of an aircraft carrier. A boss fight would have been incredibly out of place in the Forgotten City, of course, so making the finale a battle of wits was an excellent choice, and it's all because of their use of memes, and a rule we're all familiar with that is able to happen at all. Fortunately for us, it all leads to a fantastic reward, as the game's canon ending is truly wonderful. It may be a bit sardonic, but that's exactly what you want out of a game like this. And I'll go into detail about why, and how it manages to come off so well, the next time I cover The Forgotten City. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. My channel primarily covers Night in the Woods content and Night in the Woods-like games, but I tend to post a video essay about other narrative games, like The Forgotten City, about once a month or so. Now, if you're one of my subscribers, then you probably know that Fall of Porcupine came out yesterday. So as you're watching this video, there's a good chance I'm down in my man cave grinding through the game. With luck, I hope to be finished with it by the end of the weekend, with a review to come next Friday. But if not, then you can expect my long requested video on Germ to drop instead. See you guys then.